Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm so blessed and honored to be here today with Alvaro Stein, the chair of IAM Data Solutions. How are you doing, Alvaro?
Hi, Ben. Thank you for inviting me to your show. Happy to be here. I'm doing great and excited about the conversation we're about to have.
Yeah, this is a really interesting conversation, and I want to ask everyone to get in the comments on this one because I want to hear what your thoughts are. We're going to be talking about data, how we transfer data, how do we standardize data, how do we work together in a more seamless way, and I want to hear your thoughts because this is something that one person can't just decide. Alvaro, and I think you probably have one of the toughest jobs here, having to kind of herd cats, as we say, and get everybody on the same page, thinking and doing the same thing. So I'm really curious to hear how you plan to actually do that. But get in the comments, hit that like button. I want to know who you are, where you are, what the heck you're up to on this special edition Love and Reload Friday afternoon here. Alvaro, first and foremost, where in the world are you right now?
I'm Chilean, but I moved to the US over 5 years ago. So I'm based in Southern California, beautiful
Nice.
Southern California. Yeah.
Oh,
Big
beautiful. Like San
family.
Diego area or LA area? Where?
Between San Diego and LA. So it's
Nice.
quite very residential area. I have a large family, 4 kids.
Wow.
So it's a good place in
Nice.
this
Very
area.
nice.
Yeah,
Let's
we
see, we
like
got
it.
people checking in here. If you've got 4 kids, more or less, get in the comments right now. I've only got 2. I'm half the man that you are right now. I'll be honest, 2 is enough for me. I'll be honest.
Two is
Okay.
enough for me too.
Maybe you guys
Quite
split them
true.
or something. Somebody once told me, said when you have 1 kid, you can double team them. When you have 2 kids, you're playing man to man. When you have 3 or more, you're playing zone, and they'll just run you ragged. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you have that
Well,
experience.
the fourth is a U.S. citizen. He was born here, and it's funny because he speaks English. We all speak Spanish in the house,
Yeah.
but he started speaking and it was English.
And
So
how old? How old's your 4 child?
it's 5. He just turned 5 a week ago, and my
Oh,
oldest is 15, going to high school. So we have all the flavors. Two
that's
girls, two
awesome.
boys.
That's
Good
awesome.
mix. Yeah.
5-year-old. I have a 5-year-old as well,
Okay.
and yeah, it's a fun age. It's a really special age.
Yeah,
That's
it
cool.
is. It will be our last.
Yeah, last.
Yeah.
You say that. Knock on wood. Sandra Clary, good to see you, gents. Good to see you, Sandra.
Hi, Sandra.
Sandra, I want to know what you think about data and the way that it's interchanged. I think you probably have a really unique perspective. Adrian Grimes, hello from gloomy Dallas, Glomo HQ, gloomy HQ in the house. What's up, Adrian? Appreciate you. Hit that like button, everybody. Get in the comments. I want to know what you're thinking about data here. First, Alvaro, let's get started with some foundational stuff here. So, tell us a little bit about the IAM Data Solutions. Is it a committee? What? Tell us about that.
It's a task force. It was defined by a task force, but I thought I would start with some history on this problem. In
Okay.
2019 was the last IAM conference in Chicago before the pandemic, and there was a large meeting where most of the largest movers, relocation management companies, and some of the clients attended there, and we talked about this problem of exchanging data. After that conference, an alliance was formed. It was called the Moving and Mobility Standards Alliance between IAM, FIDI, ERC, and Omni.
Yep.
And that continued. I was a member of that initial steering committee, and we were talking about standards and about data model and about getting a common vocabulary. But progress was being very slow. So a year ago, IAM decided to stop the alliance and take it on themselves. It's one of their strategic initiatives, facilitating the exchange of data in the industry. So that's when the Data Solutions Initiative was created, and some of the members of the Moving and Mobility Standards Alliance Steering Committee were also invited to this task force. I was invited to the task force as well, and we took it from there. It's the same goal. How do we solve this problem that everyone feels and no one can solve by themselves?
I love the fact that IAM has taken this on themselves because while everyone has to participate at some point, someone's got to lead, or else it won't go anywhere. So I respect that they realize that. But help me understand, for everyone out there who doesn't maybe understand, what is the problem you're trying to solve?
Okay, we are a fragmented industry. All the supply chain industry in general is fragmented. In order to move something from country A and city A to country B in the other side of the world, there are like 30 different players or actors that need to participate: customs organizations, health authorities, the company, the packer, the delivery agent, etc.
Right.
Many different documents. Each one of those actors, they have to do something, and they have their own systems. So the first thing is feeding the system with the data. What do they need to do? What's the information here? And if the information is not flowing automatically through the systems, they have to type it. So
Right.
imagine 30 different actors typing information, the same information. There are mistakes. We're humans. Whenever you type, there are mistakes, and that causes delays. Things get lost. Things is
Sure.
broken. You don't know. So everyone is repeating that work, and it produces a lot of inefficiencies. There's some estimates that say that you can cut like more than 5% of the freight costs if you remove the efficiencies, and that amounts to like more than $500 billion in global inefficiencies. But we are used to doing it that way because that's the way we do it. There's no way better. If you're a large company and you have a strong IT team, you can build integrations with your main partners and you can improve that. But doing it in a global way that everyone can benefit from this or participate is really challenging. It's really hard. This is a problem known in supply chain for many years, and there are many that have been trying to solve it.
Yeah, I mean, this has to be a problem that's inherent with every supply chain, right? I mean, by definition, a supply chain are all of the links, connected, right? And each link is a point of failure potentially, right? Speaking of which, we have Brian Limperopoulos checking in here from a chess tournament in Columbus, Ohio. What's
It will
going
be
on, Brian?
hard to concentrate on the chess tournament and watching this.
Brian, are you in the middle of a chess match right now? I envision Brian with his phone in his hand watching this with one like an earpiece here, and he's moving like rook to e5 or something, and he's hitting the timer or something. Brian, put the phone down. Brian, focus on one thing, or forfeit, please. Let's be safe out there, Brian. Brian, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are too on the use case here and what the opportunity is. Brian says so much chess, so little time. Oh, Brian, what's your rating? You got to know. Um, and I've also, Alvaro, this problem to me is kind of close to home for me. So I've worked in the moving industry. I've worked with, especially on the corporate side, with like a lot of RMC partners, for instance. And every RMC partner has like their own portal that they want you to input all your information and data into. And then they come back and they're like, how come the driver's name isn't in here? And how come you haven't put the pickup date in here? And it should have been picked up 5 days ago. How come we don't have this? And it's like, how come you're requiring a person that I pay $50,000 a year to or whatever to go in there and update that? It's absurd.
It's
You
absurd.
know?
Yeah, it's absurd. And that's what many of the small and medium-sized moving companies are facing because I'm a partner of a company in Chile, Decapack. It's an international moving business. So I was the CEO for over 10 years, so I know what's a problem. And we work for all our RMCs, all our major RMCs. Most of the companies in those small countries like Chile, they have to work for everyone. So we are asked to type our data in all of those systems on top of our own. So it's very inefficient. It's very inefficient. And you wish you could have those APIs and build those integrations, but that's complex. A company like ours in Chile cannot afford to build those APIs. We have to use a move management software, and we hope that they can build those integrations to relieve us from the burden. But it's a burden, and there are mistakes, just like you were describing. We type the wrong data. We do it 5 times in different systems. So it's a mess, and we're used to doing it that way. We have more people to do that work.
It's really interesting right now, and I totally sympathize with what you're saying. And it's really cool watching this right now. And here's Monica checking in. We have people who work at RMCs, like Monica. We have people who, obviously, the association, right? So we have that stakeholder and constituency. We have Sandra here as well, who's on the software side, which is interesting. Me, who just has brash, uninformed opinions left and right. So we have a lot of different constituents here. I mean, I'd love to hear the perspective from all of them. I'd love to hear the RMC perspective. I'd love to hear the software perspective about this. And Alvaro, where does the solution for this problem sit? Where will this come from? This
Well,
solution.
everyone agrees that having data standards is necessary. It's a requirement. So whenever we talk about achievement, we all have in our minds, we understand what achievement is. But when we want to translate it to data, okay, what is exactly achievement? It's a container, it's an air shipment. Will this have this data? And we were stuck with these discussions. I mean, it's not easy, but you need to go through that. But having
It's funny. It's funny you say this. I'm going to interject here something, Alvaro, because it's funny you made a statement. Everyone agrees that data standardization is necessary. It's funny. I think the recipient of data agrees it's necessary. The giver of the data is like, yeah, but sometimes, it's not one size fits all. And sometimes, it's a little of this, a little of that. It's like, but both parties have to agree to your point that it's necessary, but also what is it, right?
Yeah. And when there's two parties, when you're integrating with just one partner, it's easier because you sit with just one party and define the data and build your integration based on that. But when you're trying to have a standard that works for everyone, that will save time for everyone to build those APIs, that gets more complicated because the industry is global and there are different words for the same concepts around the world. So there's a lot of discussions. Sometimes we spend like an hour or 2 hours discussing about a specific term and what data was related to that.
So are you literally sitting in a room with different stakeholders from different parts of the world deciding what something's going to be called?
Not right now, but we did that for over 2 years.
Wow.
We were progressing in that direction. But we knew that defining the right data standards, defining one data standard was not going to be enough. Again, it's enough if you want to build one-to-one integration, but we need a way to build integrations between all the different systems and actors in the moving industry, and that adds more challenging things. Like building an API is expensive, so just having the data standards saves a little time when you build those APIs, but managing multiple APIs with multiple partners becomes increasingly complex. It's exponentially complex.
Do you almost have to standardize the API also?
Yeah, but that's part of the evolution we went through. We were talking about data standards, and we knew that we had to solve a standard API, and we knew that security was going to be an issue as well. There needs to be a way that you can give access to all your partners, 100 partners, and that they can give access to you in an efficient way. So it is possible to do it, but it's not efficient. It's so inefficient that it's almost not possible to accomplish. But then we had a breakthrough, and I hope we
Tell me
can
about the breakthrough. I'm curious. I'm curious about the breakthrough. And we also have people checking in here. Hit that like button. Get in the comments. I want to know what your thoughts are on data API is, how it works. I'm seeing Monica's coming in here. Brian's coming in here. Jillian from CT in the house. What's up, Jillian? It's good to see you. We're going to get to your comments here. So Pete, leave your questions and your comments in the comments right now, and we're going to get to those. But I want to hear about Alvaro's the breakthrough that you guys had.
Yeah. So we were working on this, and we knew it was going to be complex. We thought that this was going to take several years until there was something useful to be adopted and adoption grows. But in my last 5 years, when I moved to the US and I I stepped down from my CEO position at Decapack. I love technology, so I start researching and I look at other industries in supply chain. I looked what the shipping industry was doing, air freight industry was doing, and they were all trying to solve the same problem. They're all creating their committees and their groups to create standards. Some are just creating standards. Some wanted to create some software platforms that could help solve this. But all of them were failures. They were learning in the process. It's not easy. The most important factor is how do you convince everyone to trust the organization leading this or the people leading this to support that same standard, saying yes, this is a standard that we will support and we will use it, and that makes the decision easier for the leaders.
Yeah, and the way I see it, I mean, to your point, is what is is there a profit motive to investing the time and energy into leading this initiative? And if there's a profit motive to it, how can you trust the leadership? And it's a problem that's just inherent, it feels like. So what is that solution? What is that middle ground? How do you achieve
Well,
that?
that's when after researching all these projects and seeing that none of them were doing like quick progress, and were becoming successful. There were some failures. We discovered what IATA is doing. IATA is the International Air and Transport Association,
Yeah.
and they were working in 2019. They start working on a program that they called One Record, and it opened our eyes. When we discovered it, we said this has the potential to solve all the problems that we were facing. It was a change of paradigm. I can go into some details later, but we learned from their experience, and everything is open. They communicated. They want people learning about the program and adopting it, and they're making a lot of progress in the air freight industry. Major airlines have been piloting it for the last 2 years, and they already are exchanging data. I attended the last IATA conference in Hong Kong a month ago, and One Record was one of the three most important topics that was discussed. They're heavily promoting it, and all the airlines have committed to be full compliant with One Record by 2026, by the beginning of 2026. So it's very aggressive. You're not. It's the only project that has that ambition, and it can really work. It's working now. So yeah.
So I like this approach where you're taking like basically a commercial best practice from the airline industry for air cargo and applying it. And obviously some household goods are moved air cargo, majority of which are moved via truck and via ocean carrier. So I have to ask, is there a similar initiative on the ocean or the ground transport?
The One Record framework project is very general, and they design it with that goal in mind, that it can be used by other industries, not just air freight. So if you look at the data model, we started talking about the data model, everyone thinks about the data. The data model is very general. It talks about shipments, it talks about waybill, and you can dig deeper in the details and you can specify like air freight. Of course, there's more details for air freight, but you can still use it for moving, for the moving industry.
So instead of bill of lading, we might call it a waybill.
There's a general waybill, and that waybill will have different types. One type will be a bill of lading, another is an airway bill, another can be a government bill of lading, etc. So it's the transport document. So you can go from general to specific.
But it occupies like the same field. It could just have a variety of names.
It's the same.
It's also about mapping the fields to one another, isn't it?
Correct.
Too?
Correct. So and they have standardized the data model, and we've looked at the data model, and since we have the experience of all the discussions, all the hours discussing about the data model for the movie industry, we could see that it's possible to match them easily. And there are some gaps with the data and the concepts that we use in moving, and that's one of IAM's role, and one of my roles as the chair of the Data Solutions Initiative is to work on filling those gaps. So building the additions to the data model. It's not copying and doing it completely from scratch. It's taking what they have and building the complements to that.
Now, so this is interesting. So you're going to start with the data model that IATA and One Record have put forth, and then augment that with household goods specific.
Correct.
So it's like an additional module or an additional
Yeah,
version release.
they created, for example, shipping live animals and pets. That's important in air freight. They're not going by container, and they're going by air, all of them.
Right.
We are also in the movie industry exposed to that. We have to move pets. So they have an addition that is specific for pets and live animals. So it's a complement. So this would be the same. It's a similar for household goods and the movie industry. There are different concepts that we use, and we can put them. But the One Record framework is not just successful because of the data model. It's because the data model is one component, and there are other two components which are also as critical as the data model. One is the API. You mentioned it. You said, but maybe you have to work on an API. Yes, and they define the standard API that is part of that. So you have the data model that stores data, and you have the API that standardize the way to transfer data between two different systems. And the third component, which is also very important, is the security. How do you accomplish this where you feel that like you control, not feel, where you own your data, and you just give access to the people that you want to have access, that should have access, and not anyone else. So that's another piece of the framework that really solved some of the problems that we were facing again. In one of the previous conversations, Ben, you mentioned about this reluctancy from relocation management companies to have to discuss about sharing data.
Mm-hmm.
And in my view, yeah, they feel this is a competitive advantage, and I agree. I mean, most of the data that they have is a competitive advantage, but we're not talking about sharing all the data they have. We're talking about sharing the data that is required in order to fulfill the transport movement.
I look at what you're trying to do right now, what you're doing for data is being similar to what the standardized shipping container did logistically, right? And look at the boom in commerce and traffic and the globalization of the economy that was able to be achieved through the standardized 40-foot, 20-foot shipping container, all right, the ISO container. And I think that was done, what, in like 1948 or something like that. And then all the boom that's happened after that. So now if we can standardize data, the speed at transmission and the amount of economic boost to kind of your points in the very beginning, it's just if we think about what the standardization of cargo did, and now we think about that from a data standpoint, if it's at all similar in scope and scale, it could be massive, the opportunity.
Again, imagine when you're moving things from A to B, the only real costs are the actual transport, the fuel and the truck. Everything else, it's paper. It adds layers of inefficiency. So that's a goal. At some point, the world will get there, where everything flows seamlessly, and whenever you're moving the goods, you can scan the QR code of the package, and you know exactly all the data that you need to know to move that. So how do we get there? With the container also, they were able to make the change. No one, at least in my experience so far, no one denies the benefit of sharing data and that future. How will that future look like? The problem is, how do we get from here to there? How do we break that initial barrier? The shipping industry was able to do that with a steel container. Everyone had to build infrastructure, but everyone had to trust that this was going to be a standard. When you trust that the standard will be there and is going to be adopted, then you can invest. Because you again, the benefit is there, the return is there, but return is there only if everyone uses it.
Yeah.
So if you want to do it and you're not sure that everyone else will follow, you might want to wait.
Well, but it also takes early adopters, right? I mean, someone's got to be first.
Of course, and early adopters are important to show that this is useful, this is feasible, and show how it's done. And after that, you can start bringing more companies.
So really, the competitive advantage may not be withholding data, but maybe early adopting data standardization
There's
and
there's
interchange.
no loss of competitive advantage. At least I don't see any loss of competitive advantage. Again, they're not sharing data with their competitors. They're sharing data with their supply chain and just the data they need in order to fulfill their work, their job, or the tasks. They're already sharing that data through emails or calls, which are not safe and not standard. They're
Yes,
sharing the data.
yes, and I would agree with you, but I would also say I think their point would be, but if everyone say we're sharing this data and we have a good process and we have standardization, we've achieved that, to then allow other folks to use our same process would be them to access the shortcuts that we've innovated. I'm not saying that's right, but I can understand the protectionist mindset there.
Yeah, they see a competitive advantage that they have the network of supply chain, and they have this solved. So they solve it in their supply chain. But they have solved the supply chain, the moving company that is working for them, they still have the problem.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we don't need that. It's not required for relocation management companies to adopt it. Of course, it would be great if a few want to adopt it, but they don't have the problem. But the moving companies have the problem. So we believe that the moving companies, the largest moving companies or the most forward thinking, they will see the benefit and will want to adopt it. And when the moving companies agree on a standard, for relocation management companies, it will be easier to access the supply chain with a
Yeah.
standard.
Yeah, really interesting, and I have some thoughts on this as well. Sandra Clary is saying, "Good job, Alvaro, summarizing the complexities of the business use case here." We've got Monica joining in here too, and hit that like button if you're watching this right now. First, hit that like button. Second, leave a comment. I want to know what your thoughts are. Are we just making a big deal out of nothing here? Should we just suck it up and get back to our manila folders and our pen and paper and our carbon copies? I mean,
It's
are we crazy? Let us know, or if you think that this is the future and it should have happened 5 years ago, let us know that as well. I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts are.
you
Um,
know, Ben, I mentioned a research about the benefits of sharing data and how sharing data can solve the global supply chain crisis. That's a very interesting research. And one of the findings of the research is that also it has another benefit with sustainability.
mm,
If if in this world where every data is flows seamlessly and everyone is able to do whatever they need to do with the goods to make sure that they're moving, um, the freight will be more efficient, and they estimated that it could cut emissions by over 20%. So there's also
wow.
a huge potential there.
I thought you were going to talk about the paper cost of these coordinators printing off every file.
That's
I thought that's where you were going with it.
Yeah, yeah, but it will be more efficient. So there's a lot of benefits. The problem is that the benefit is for the world, and it's really hard to get the short-term return on the benefit now. If no one agrees on a standard, then it's impossible to do it. So
Yeah, this is
who will
very
be the leaders
interesting.
that will create the standard and will be able to open up this unlock this opportunity? It's an opportunity, it's a benefit, but it's locked right now. It's
Hmm.
locked. It's hard. It's not possible
Really
to get.
interesting here. So Monica's worked for RMCs, and she says, from my experience, every client would love the integration, so they have access to real time data. Data is complete and accurate.
Yeah, and someone talk about the Amazon experience. That's what we all expect. We need to know. We want to know where things are, what's the condition, everything, and that's not possible unless everything is integrated.
And I think Monica brings up a really good point here that clients want this. We
Mhm.
hear all the time when we go to these conferences, we hear clients say, "I want to know where my shipment is. I want to know in real time what the status is." And we can't give them that real time velocity of information and accuracy if it's dependent on a human process. If it's dependent on Susie the coordinator making 3 phone calls, inputting the data into the system so that it populates on your end, that's a mechanical Turk process, and it's not real time. We'll never get there until we can standardize the data. And vertically integrated supply chains like a UPS or a FedEx or whatever, they can achieve it because they own the whole shipping process, right, under one
Correct.
company. But that's a rare. I mean, that's a rare case. In fact, that's why Amazon's become so masterful in the retail space, because they own their logistics supply chain, right? So we have to now take this super fragmented supply chain, like you described before, and figure out a way to glom it together and stitch it together with data processes, so that it mirrors that Amazon experience that all of our customers desire. But
Yeah.
here's where I go with this is to say, while it would, you said something before. You said it would be nice if the RMCs, agreed on it, but we have to do it either way. And I would say we need the clients to mandate this if we're going to get real quick, widespread, ubiquitous change, because they've got us logging into these crappy portals already. So it shows that the customer can get us to do whatever the customer wants to do. So if they say now you have to be on a on a data standardized data compliant platform by 2026, you better believe every moving company is going to move to that. So that's just, I think we should lobby more with these large enterprises.
I agree, and there are some organizations that are involved and they want this industry to get to that level. But the problem is that a large organization, a large corporate client, for example, they work with their relocation management company or their mover, and that relocation management company has to work with hundreds of different partners around the world. So the corporate client can demand that from their relocation management company, but there's not much the relocation management company can do to make the change happen for all those hundreds of companies. It will be probably a year, a transition that will last for a few years. So they can say, we want this, we will support you, but they can't put like a deadline. By 2026, you have to be on the standard. That will be very hard to accomplish because it's out of the control. It's an entire industry that will need to be on that standard.
Have you? I want to ask a pointed question here. Has your team um, approached and worked with, say, a Grable or an Ayers or a Cardis or a Serva,
Yeah,
or any other corporate client?
yeah. I mean, we were talking before about the Amazon experience and visibility and being able to know in real time where your goods are. There are different layers of visibility, and I can talk like an hour about all these different layers and technologies for that. But in this research and exploration, I've engaged with some of the companies, and there are a few that are actively engaging in learning about One Record. We are at the start of the process. We just communicated about One Record, and we are trying to get people to learn what it is, demystify the complexities, because it sounds complex and this is for just for IT people, but business people need to understand also what's the value and support that. And it's not hard to understand if you have an open mind and understand where is this going. So there's been, the initial interest has been great. They say, this makes sense. We understand the value, and we want to help them now to figure out what they have to do in order to get on board. So we are along that process. For example, IAM organized a webinar where we invited the head of digital cargo at IATA. He's one of the creators of the One Record standard, and we brought him to explain what it was and how has been the experience in the air freight industry to adopt it. So that also, we had over 50 attendees and a lot of interesting questions, a lot of great comments, great feedback about the initiative. But then after that, everyone goes back to work and said, what do I have to do? So now
Well,
we
well,
say,
well, and I'll say this about. I just want to interject here because as I'm listening to you talk about this, I'm thinking, people come, everybody's agreeing, yes, 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 sounds good, especially over a beer at a conference, sounds great. Then we go back to the office, and now it's like, oh, we're back to putting out fires, we're back to handling critical needs of the business, things like that, right? And to me, this doesn't be. This goes from this. This is a nice to have right now. How does it go to a have to have? And in my mind, I'm gonna answer my own rhetorical question. I'd love to hear your thought. It becomes a have to have when it appears as an RFP question from a client. So when IBM or some big time corporate client, Boeing or something like that, puts a question of, do you participate in the one record data standardization initiative? How do you use APIs to interchange data? Just like we ask about the diversity, equity, and inclusion of our workforce, just like we ask about our sustainability goals and tracking, just like we ask about our ISO certifications, things like that. When they start asking these questions on RFPs and awarding tens of millions of dollars of moving business based on the what I'm saying, these criteria, to
yeah.
me, that's when this becomes a critical to the business need.
Yeah, but the solution has to make sense as well, and we are not there yet. There's still no use cases or pilots. We don't have anyone in the movie industry with experience. Yes, we did it, we adopted it, and this is our experience. There are experiences in the air cargo industry. I went to the IATA conference, and there was no person from the moving industry. So even though they're very similar, it's completely separated. So they have those experience, but we have to experience it ourselves. So our role is how do we break those barriers little by little? Not a big thing, not making it look too complex. What's the next step now? What are we asking members to do? And the next step is exposing this technology and this standard to some of the most interested members and motivating them to initiate a pilot. And there are some of the organizations that want to start a pilot, but we're still in the learning phase. So next Thursday, we are hosting a workshop. It's a hands-on workshop, and this is very interesting because it's different talking about it and explaining theoretically about it. People understand it more, people don't understand it. It's different than showing it. And in the workshop, we will go through entire process of simulating this locally in the computer. It's not, the workshop is not for everyone, but you need to be an advanced user. So we're aiming for people that have this inclination for technology, maybe the IT leaders or some role there
Right.
participating. And we will go, okay, this is how you download this here, run it in your computer, press play. Now let's simulate an exchange of data, and we're focusing on a very minimum viable pilot. We're calling it, I don't know if you're familiar with minimum viable product.
Yeah,
What's
MVP.
the MVP?
Yeah.
So we're saying a minimum viable pilot. What's the minimum viable pilot? And we discovered that a very simple use case to try is when you're updating the status of the shipment to your booker, for example. You are origin agent, and I say, I packed it, and I want to send that notification to the booker. Let's simulate that exchange of data. So we will go through the entire process of simulating that. So, okay, we install the hardware that we needed to install. Now, let's simulate that we are the booker. Let's create a shipment under this standard for the booker. Then we will send a notification to the origin agent automatically. The origin agent will then have the link to that shipment. Then they will post an event, it's called. They'll say, okay, shipment packed. And that notification will go back to the booker. All of that is done outside the move management system. It's done in this one record environment. And after they get that notification back with a shipment update, then the booker will be able to update their system automatically. So in less than 2 hours, we will be able to show and test the entire cycle. And what we're hoping is that people say, oh, this is easier than I thought, or now I understand it. Now I know what my company will need for a pilot. and it will help them make the better choice on their approach to this. Some will want to lead and want to start a pilot. Some will say, this is great, we will support it, but we will wait until after peak season. Some will say, this is great, but I don't have the resources. I use a third-party move management system. And in that case, that's the best they can do. The move management system is the one that will have to get their clients on board. They will have to do the work. So we're trying to convince them, okay, so they know, okay, this is what I need to do. And they will be able to analyze the project and try to get the budget for it. And once they do, the idea is, let's start small. Let's do a pilot. Let's prove that this adds value to your company and that others, you start exchanging data. And we're seeing this in the air freight industry. This is how it started there. They started with pilots. Some were successful, some were not. And eventually everyone agreed that starting with the pilot to update shipment status made sense because it's very simple. But when they start doing it, they discover the opportunities and they start digging in and they discover more. Oh, we can do this for this. We can do it to request quotes and receive quotes. And they are discovering different use cases and they keep evolving. So eventually, all the data that gets exchanged will go through that same framework. So again, we have to see. It's great to have this adjacent industry, the air freight industry, driving this, creating this. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for an industry like the movie industry. Doesn't have the scale to do that. But they've done the work. They laid out the work, and it's there. It's ready. So that's why the workshop is, listen, guys, this is ready. And 2 hours, just give us 2 hours to know what it is, and let's wait for your feedback afterwards.
How do people sign up for the workshop?
I think if Brian is there, can help us.
Brian, stop en passanting out here and give us
link.
the link to the website before you go en passant all over Columbus here.
Yeah, or let me see. I think I have the link here.
I haven't heard the word en passant since middle school. This is great. You're really bringing me back. It means in passing, I believe. En passant.
Okay.
This guy.
Join the chats. Join the chat. I have to join.
Just put it in the, go on the LinkedIn broadcast under my profile, Alvaro, and then you can just paste the you can paste the link to the webinar there if you want.
Okay.
So yeah, we got Sandra here checking in, Monica. Get in the comments, everybody. Hit that like button. I want to know what your thoughts are about all this stuff. Is it something that you're there you go. Look at you. You know what? There you go. See, now if we had a seamless data interchange, maybe I could have just said that and it would just zoop right in there or something. One day it would just be
right.
Voice commands, to the AI internets.
Right. So again, the first goal is demystifying the technology and so people can learn. It's a technical workshop. So we will expect participants to know what Docker, they don't need to know what Docker is, but they need to understand what an API is, what a server is. We will have to run some commands in the terminal. So you don't need to be an IT specialist. You don't need to be a developer, but you have to be an advanced user. So the ideal profile of the attendee for this workshop is someone who understands the business, but also understands about the technology and about the importance of APIs, and they're willing to try and learn and understand, okay, what will we require to get on board? And of course, they want to see that everyone else supports it. The leaders will do it if they see that everyone says, yeah, maybe I would not want to do it now, but yes, I will do it eventually. So that will give reassurance to the leaders that this is worth it.
How do you get all the IT leaders from all the moving companies to join the webinar?
One of the great things about this industry is that everyone knows everyone else. I don't.
Yeah, but not the IT people. They never come out. They're just always back home.
we have approached directly and done a few open introductory sessions where we are asking those questions to them, explaining what this is, seeing if it has support from the business side. So we're engaging to the people that I know and the people that the IAM team knows that attends the conferences. And we are, so they get them excited and they say, yes, this makes sense. And they say, I have to get my IT person involved or my IT provider involved. They even say that. So that's when we connect with them. We have to find out who are those people.
Is this demonstration open to the public, or do you have to be an IAM member, or how does that work?
You have to be an IAM member, and the registrations were open to everyone, but we are trying to set up expectations. If you want to participate as an observer, it's fine, but it will be hands-on. So we will be doing things in the computer. So it may be boring if you just want to be an observer. The recording will be available afterwards, and probably we will also create like a tutorial to do it yourself.
Yeah. Well, the reason I'm asking is because Monica brings up a great point here, right? And this is kind of the point I've been bringing up as well. Technology tends to be one of the differentiators for RMC, so it's an interesting idea to try to get them to standardize. You know, how do we get them, our upstream clientele, interested in this, and how do we get the IT people from the largest bookers in the world to join in on this and say, I'd like to begin, because to me it's a the data kind of does a trickle down, right? It starts with the customer, then it goes to the RMC, well, it's the transferee, then the corporation, then the RMC, then the booker, then the OA, DA, shipping it, and so on and so forth, right? And so the further up we can get here to allow it to trickle down, the more value it has, it feels like.
Technology by itself, I don't think it's a differentiator, but it's what do you do with it? How do you make your processes more efficient? What other tools and services and value do you add to your clients? And that doesn't go away with a standard to share data. Of course, having a standard to share data, it's easier for others to compete with you, but how you use it, it's still up to you. We're not standardizing anything about the process and about the services that you can provide. It's just making easier to participate in a network style. If you think about this future where everything is interconnected and you believe this is good for humanity, and you still think that you don't want to participate because it might take away your competitive advantage, it's like you're blocking the progress towards that. I understand it as well, but I think that that's a myth for relocation management companies, because how they thought about this in the past, if they understand how one record is set up and what IAM is trying to accomplish, I think they will lose some of that fear, and they might be willing to try it out, because they will understand that it doesn't take away their competitive advantage. They're not sharing data with their competitors. And those who get on board first, this is also things that we have learned from the air freight industry. At the beginning, there are many companies and tech providers that are very reluctant to get on board, but they want to know what is happening. They want to see they're adopting it. But sooner or later, everyone comes on board. When they see their support, they understand, okay, now it's better to participate, and they uncover the opportunities. It will be easier. For example, a relocation management company has great integrations with their existing partners, but it's very hard for them if they want to switch one of the partners that is not working, because they're not part of the network. So it's a cost to switch for them. If they have the same standard, it's easy for them to switch providers.
Yep, makes sense.
Just plug it. The cost is zero, literally, from the technology point of view.
We've spent a lot of time talking about data here, and I've really enjoyed it, and I think it's awesome to be able to go take a deep dive like this into a topic. I mean, that's one of the cool parts about the format of this show, is we get to allocate 50 minutes talking about one topic, so we can get really deep into the nuances of the conversation. But I want to ask you before we go into overrated, underrated, which I always make time for because that's the cherry on top of the sundae of these conversations. But I want to ask you before we get into that, what's one technology that you see really changing um, the relocation industry in the next 5 years,
I
besides
think,
data interchange and
yeah, I
standardization?
think this is it. Uh, there are many great tools already. I don't think there will become up something new now. It's just the pace of adoption of these technologies that is taking time, especially for smaller and medium-sized companies like AI-assisted surveys, etc. Digital packing lists. I mean, everything can be automated. Having AI move coordinators, for example, that you can do it now. The tools are there to do it now. So I think those are not too creative or transformative. One technology that I see that it's being used and it's growing in adoption in other supply chain industries is being able to track your goods with a device. It's called IoT tracking, and that solves the one layer of visibility, the real-time visibility where my shipment is. It doesn't prevent anything. There's no more data, but you know where the shipment is.
What
That is
what type of device? What type of device is that? I mean, people used to talk about using air tags, or is it something more proprietary and robust? I mean, what does that look like?
no. In general, there are many providers of tracking solutions using devices. AirTag is one solution that has some limitations, so I don't think it's the right technology for the movie industry. I know that people are using it to track their own things. I put an AirTag in my suitcase when I travel, so you can do it for that, but it's not, that technology won't help the industry. So there are like drug manufacturers, and when you're shipping vaccines, every air shipment of food or vaccines is being tracked with a device, and there are different providers, and that those devices are different sizes, they're proprietary, but they have sensors. Or the most important data that can transmit is the location. So they send the location at a specific frequency, but they have sensors like temperature, shock, humidity, and pretty standard. But it hasn't, that technology hasn't been adopted in the movie industry. And I have a personal experience that's my startup that has some successes and some complications because the need is there, but it's this fragmentation and the different layers that you have: the corporate client, the transferee, corporate client, relocation management company, origin agent, destination agent, that everyone needs to be aligned on using this solution in order to work, and that's really hard to accomplish.
Yeah.
But it's being used, and I think it's a matter of time until we have those. Again, that solves one layer of the visibility, one layer only, not the data, but the location and the condition.
All right. All right. You know what? Let's hop into it. Let's have some fun, Alvaro. Okay.
Okay.
We've talked about work enough here. Okay. Let's have a little fun. Do you like to play games?
Yeah, I love board
You,
games.
yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. All right. So this game's called Overrated, Underrated. Okay. Do you know the rules?
I think so, but it would be great to
There's only
hear
two
them again.
rules. Okay.
Okay.
First, I'm going to give you a topic, and you are going to tell me if it is either underrated or overrated. Those are the only two acceptable answers. Okay. Two, I will tell you if you are correct.
Okay. There is a correct answer.
Oh, there's definitely a correct answer. Yes, and I get to be the judge. I'm the only
Okay.
judge here. Okay. Sometimes we put it to a vote. I don't know if we have a statistically significant sample size right now. So yes, this is this. I am the judge, jury, and executioner today on this Happy Friday. It's all fun. Nobody will actually die. I promise. Or at least no one has. Anyway, so let's get into it. All right, number one here: overrated, underrated. Science.
Underrated.
Underrated. Why
Yeah,
is that?
I think that science is losing um, the battle with fake news and religious belief that do not match science. So, and with all the fake news and pseudoscience, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it
Yeah,
right,
pseudoscience. Yes, correct.
pseudoscience, that I think people are stopping to believe in science or on the power of scientific arguments or proofs. When people hear like the flat earthers, and it's growing, you will some know
It
you
it's
try to convince
it
them.
is shocking, the flat Earth
Shocking.
thing. That is
Yeah.
shocking. This is a notion from the Middle Ages, like it feels like, and like this is coming back. How is this coming back? The flat Earth thing,
And-
like, and these are people I saw one time was a Kyrie Irving. I'm a big Mavs fan, Dallas Mavericks fan, but I think it was Kyrie Irving who was flat Earthing, right? And it's like, dude, you hop on a plane all the time to go back and forth to games. You're from Australia. You flew from Australia here. Did you see the end of the earth? Like where was it? Like you've covered the entire earth. Where was the end? I don't understand.
yeah, but they don't believe. They're losing faith on science and on scientists. Again, there's people that believe in science, and whatever you can prove with science is the truth. And even if you don't know, I mean, I haven't, I believe in Einstein's theories of relativity, but I'm not able to prove them myself. So I delegate the trust in the scientific community. If the scientific community agrees that the Earth is round, well, there's no reason for me to not believe the same thing. But I think that is changing. There's many people that not trusting. They trust whatever they want to trust, whatever they see in social media.
You know, it's interesting though, because at one point scientists said the Earth was flat, right? And at some point, scientists said that the sun revolved around the Earth, not the Earth
Right.
around the sun, right? And so our evolution of our natural world around us is evolving. Our understanding is evolving, and while I tend to trust science, there's also things that I don't necessarily accept, right? Like when somebody tells me that there's a 300 billion year old rock found on the beach, right? And they say there's a 300 billion year old
Well,
jawbone of a dinosaur that lived in the water, and this girl just finds it on the beach one day. I'm like
well,
the odds that that's 300 billion years old to me versus maybe just old
well.
is hard to
Universe.
believe.
The
Huh?
universe, I think, is 14 billions. So
Cool.
maybe 300 million
Maybe.
years old. But if
Maybe,
you
but
trust,
that's such an incomprehensible number to me that I'm like, or maybe it's not. Like I don't know.
but
Like
what
it
if
seems made up to me.
the science? You have the scientific method, and when one person creates a theory and publishes a paper, you you expect other scientists to try to replicate that and to validate that. Only then it becomes accepted. So if every serious scientific person believes that the process of finding out the date or dating objects works based on some decomposition of radiation or whatever. I don't know exactly
Yeah,
how.
half living and stuff like that.
But
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 it's
I'm
yeah
convinced that there's a way to do it. And when someone is trying to say what the age is, I trust the process.
yeah
So
yeah
yeah.
yeah. I think science is more. I think actually science is more on the rise, and religion is more on the decline. Currently in today's sense, I just think the religion is just very loud, right? There's some certain people that are very loud about it, but I don't know. I tend to I think of myself as a person who trusts science, but there's things I question, like in the dating of rocks and stuff like that is one of those things.
Science doesn't answer all the questions, and understanding science also means that you have to understand where are the limits, what science cannot answer, and there will always be things that science cannot answer, and that might be God or might be something that we don't know,
Yeah,
whatever. But there's a
yeah.
limit to science,
All
definitely.
right. So
Okay.
the answer to the question, science overrated or underrated? Gosh, I don't know if science can be underrated. You know, you're not gonna like that. I'm gonna say science is overrated. I'm gonna
Overrated.
say science is overrated. Now we can still be friends here. And I'm not crazy. I'm not a flat earther, but I'm not all about the infallibility of science either. So you know, I'm gonna go overrated here. That was a tough one though. That was a tough one. All right, let's get into this one. ESG, overrated or underrated?
Overrated.
Overrated. Wow, going out on a limb here. Okay.
Yeah,
Tell us.
I know it's not.
Define
politically correct.
ESG for people that don't know what this acronym means first, please.
Environmental sustainability and governance, I think that's it.
Governance, I think, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and why is these wonderful concepts overrated?
I mean, when people started talking about sustainability and the emissions and contamination, most organizations wanted to put money for marketing purposes and saying, hey, we're doing something, we're doing something. That's my point on being overrated, because you are trying to think about marketing and trying to do whatever your clients want or whatever, what others are doing. I don't think all those people, I'm sure that there's people that are really focused on fixing this problem and doing great things. But many, I'm sure that they just doing it and they go back and say, okay, what's the minimum cost? Of what can we do to move in that direction? Of course, we need to save the earth. But there's a lot more that it's like contaminated by marketing, by showing that. That's my point. It's a lot of
Yeah,
marketing.
like greenwashing, right? And things like
Greenwashing.
that.
That's it, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
sure,
it.
sure. You know, I think it's a very valid point you make. I look at it like this. Would we rather people didn't care about ESG because they couldn't market it, or do we rather care about ESG because they can market it? And it kind of goes back to the whole thing about the data, uh, the data that we've been
Data
talking about.
solutions.
Yes, is that like when clients start asking for it, when there's customer demand for these solutions to be present in their supply chain, the solutions appear. And right now, there's customer demand for ESG
Yeah.
solutions. And so, therefore, there's people out there that are working on them. Are they over reporting them? Yes. Are they embellishing on their, do they act, is it performative? Possibly. But I believe it's better to perform and to embellish than to not give a crap about it and say nothing about it, because at least when you're over reporting, you're still reporting. And I think I think it's creating a race to keep up, and it's creating competition to be the most sustainable or the most righteous company out there. And while we may question the motives of these people for doing it, they're still taking some steps in that direction. And some steps are more steps than we've taken in the past.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, it's better that people keep doing this.
It's like,
Eventually,
it,
we'll figure out what's the right way to do it, the most efficient way to do it. But
yeah.
I agree. I agree. It's better to be overrated than underrated.
Yeah, it's like if I only don't murder people because I don't want to go to jail, at least I'm not murdering people. Forget my motives, but at
Yeah.
least I'm not committing crimes, right? So yeah, I think ESG, it's hard to say it's underrated because it's in everybody's face, right? It's like
Yeah.
kind of the big thing. And I think it's actually, I will say, here in the United States, it's underrated because in Europe they are much further ahead of
Yeah.
us than here in the States. Just like I would argue, as far as DE&I goes, we are further ahead maybe here in the States than we are in other parts of the world where it's a little bit more complex of an issue almost to deal with. But I guess I would say here in the U.S., as I sit here now, ESG is underrated. Wow. I still really like you a lot, Alvaro, even though we don't agree so far. Okay. I still very much like you. All right. This one's interesting. The end of civilization.
Yeah, that's overrated, I think. Uh, People, especially young people, they believe that the world will end at some point, and
Do you
I have
think young
faith.
people believe it more than old people believe it?
Maybe across the different age groups, maybe that's similar. I felt that when COVID started, I thought it was the start of the end of the world. Now we have some these words, and I get that feeling once in a while. But then I put my trust in humanity. I say somehow humanity will find a way. We have great scientists. I don't know. It's just maybe it's wishful thinking, or this is how I can go through my day without thinking that the world will end. That people will find a way. Humanity will find a way. But that's what I believe.
Yeah.
It's becoming very difficult, but I don't think the end is near. I think
This
we'll
is a
survive
tough
this
one.
crisis.
This is a tough one.
It's tough. Yeah.
It's tough, man. I I don't I trust the people. I do. I have faith in humanity. You know what I don't trust? I don't trust the robots. I don't trust the
Really?
AI. I don't trust the unmanned drones powered by AI and the robot army. Like legitimately, like I sound like a crazy person. I know I sound like a crazy person. I am a
No.
pacifist. I do not own a gun yet. But I tell you what, there are some days where I'm like, I need to go get a gun because I'm like, what's gonna happen? What's the gun you get when the robot comes? Forget the human gun. I don't know what blasts those things because those are the ones I'm worried about.
Yeah, I know that the fear is shared by many. Even the people working in AI, they have expressed their
Yeah.
concerns about this risk. So I don't deny that the risk is there.
I've never found an industry that wants regulation of its own industry more than the AI. And most business people, right, in industries are like, oh, get rid of regulation. We don't need regulation. Small government, get out. Don't tell us what to do. The AI people are like, please, somebody get in here right now and put some rules around this thing. I've never seen anybody ask the
Well,
government to intervene in their
with
business.
nuclear weapons, I mean, the US did it, but after throwing the first two bombs, they said we have to
Yeah.
regulate it. So it's
After the first two bombs, they're like, okay, hold on, let's just get these out real quick. And okay, now we
when
need to everybody get off.
ChatGPT, yeah, OpenAI and ChatGPT, they didn't throw a bomb, but it was like a bomb, and that's how everything started with AI. So now everyone say, okay, we need some rules to make sure that this is not used for those purposes. It's
Sandra,
scary.
Sandra saying, "Shall we play a game?" in her robot voice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
so
I'm more a believer of the benefits that AI can bring. Again, trusting that people will find a way to regulate this to make sure that we don't have robots that will kill us. But I don't think that robots or AI will take away our jobs. It will change, of course, the different types of job, but it's not like people will be out of without a jobless. It will be a transition. You will have to find what is your role, what things can be replaced by AI, what things are still require some human intervention.
yeah.
Find a way.
I'm gonna say back to this question, the end of civilization. I think this concept is underrated. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be the. I feel like this
It,
concept is
you know,
underrated.
and the value is on the discussion and the ideas. It doesn't matter if it's underrated or overrated. It's
No, I
this
know.
doing the
We're
idea.
just
But yeah,
we're just
we're
having
open to
fun.
it. Let's
We're
see if
just
we find common in the last two.
this is entertainment for the robots. Okay, here we go. Blockchain technology, overrated or underrated?
Underrated. Underrated. I fell in love with blockchain technology in 2018
Hmm.
when I moved to the US, and I got deep. Not in cryptocurrency. Actually, it took me like 4 years to buy some coins. I explored what blockchain could do for businesses, for organizations, and decentralized governance, and really understand how it worked. And then when I finally decided to buy some coins, I lost all the money. I'm not a trader, I was able to learn that okay, this is not because I understand blockchain technology. I know how to trade, so I will leave that part to the specialist. That's not my job. I was able to learn that. But those problems, it's so speculative, and people still don't understand why is Bitcoin. This is just a scam. I don't think this is a scam. It hasn't gone away. It won't go away. There are scams, of course. There are scams, so it needs to be regulated. But there's still things going on, and there's still projects. And the way I think it's going to disrupt is not cryptocurrency, is how communities organize around a similar project. Again, and we can talk an hour about this. That's why I believe it's underrated.
Yeah.
The cryptocurrency failures or problems have hidden the value of the technology for other things, and there's still a lot going on with blockchain around the world.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny. Blockchain was the big thing before AI was the big thing, right? Blockchain was the big thing of, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. It feels like maybe even more recent than that. And it was a big thing, and everyone was waiting for it to totally disrupt, industries and change everything and all that. And the hype train was out of the station. And then it kind of like went away because we couldn't really find a good use case for it. But I feel like now here we sit talking about data interchange and all that,
Yes.
and the blockchain seems to be kind of part of the answer, right? It's like if every shipment was on the ledger, then we would know what's going on at all times from one central point of truth.
Right. And Maersk and IBM joined forces in 2018 and they created a project called TradeLens. And that was a platform built on blockchain technology to exchange data. Again, it's the same problem that we were discussing, and that's how they try to solve it. They put like millions of dollars, and last year it failed. They shut it down.
Mm.
It's not because the technology is a problem. The problem was trust and adoption. How did you get people to trust Maersk, and you wanted your competitors to trust Maersk? So it didn't work. So competitors created their own blockchain platform, which failed as well. Every blockchain platform has failed, and it's not because blockchain is a problem. It's because there's the trust is a problem and adoption. How do you get people to adopt it? How do you get the ball rolling? How do you reach in economy is called the network effects.
Mm.
How do you reach that point where adding more participants increases the value?
Right, that critical mass
The
of
critical mass, yeah.
adoption. Yeah, for sure. So blockchain technology, I would say it is underrated. I think
Awesome,
we
we agree.
scored one. Yes.
Yeah,
No, it is. I think blockchain is it's having a renaissance. It's having a new moment, I think, or
yeah.
will. All right, last one here. User experience, UX, overrated, underrated.
I think it's underrated, especially in our industry. There's a lot that can be done by going through the process of thinking about the user, thinking about their experience, and try to design a service to fulfill the customer needs, and not just installing or implementing the software, the latest technology, and doing it because you want to do it. So keeping the customer in mind and going through the journey that the customer goes and seeing how with technology and service we can provide that service in the best and more efficient way and most transparent way. So I haven't seen a lot. Maybe technology companies do it, maybe some large companies do it, but in my experience, small companies will just use whatever software there is, and there's value on designing the service regardless of the technology you use. So having a design mindset, we're going to design, and design, it's not a linear problem. It's not a linear task. You learn and you iterate, and some designs don't work and you have to do it again, and that's hard to accept by companies that have very budget constraints in budget, etc. You need to have people thinking about that. So
Yeah.
maybe it's not for everyone, but that's why I think it's underrated. It's very powerful if you do it in the right way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think user experience is so underrated in our industry. I mean, I worked for some disruptors in our industry, in the moving industry, and they touted their difference in technology. They touted their difference in um, the way that they moved shipments. But to be honest with you, the biggest way that they won, in my opinion, was they were incredibly easy to do business with.
Mhm.
Whereas moving companies were requiring appointments for in-home surveys and then written estimates that would be sent back and then need to be signed and all that stuff. I was literally quoting and booking moves over the telephone for thousands of dollars within 15 minutes, right?
Mm, yeah.
And that was back in 2006. And that is why they were shipping 100,000 long distance moves per year, was because they were just so dang easy to do business with. And the
Yeah.
moving industry makes our customers jump through so many hoops. And I get it, some of it's regulation, some of it's operational, efficiency, et cetera. But it's just so hard. And yet, and at the same time, the world around us has become so easy. And so now by comparison, we are even harder. Now
Yeah.
the moving industry has gotten better, right? Virtual survey tools. I mean, there's just things that have happened that have taken us a long way, but it's still so much harder than the consumer expects it to be.
Right, and I'm using that approach in everything that I do. So now with the data solutions task force, I'm also having that approach with who are the clients. The clients are the members. We want to convince. We want to sell them the idea of this thing and engaging them. So the experience for them on how to get on board, we're applying this concept. So first a webinar, introductory meetings, reaching out, and then let's do a workshop where you be exposed, and then send them information. Not everything at once, but step by step, go with them along, so they don't have any arguments to say no, this is too complex for me. Let's
Are
go.
you using, have you thought about a TikTok approach, Alvaro, where you give them
Uh,
bite-sized 30-second
no,
tutorials?
yeah, but I'm not a huge fan of social media. I'm a Gen X and like technology, but when it comes to social media, I'm like very. I don't even look Instagram, but I use LinkedIn. That's my social media.
Well, but
But
the
yes,
thing with TikTok is, listen, I'm not on TikTok either, but I admire what they're able to communicate in 15 seconds, in 30
yeah,
seconds. They can communicate so much information so quickly in such a bite-size
yeah.
manner that if we took that same approach to all sorts of training that we do and conveyance of information, I think it could unlock a lot.
That's the idea. But again, this is not for everyone. It's not for everyone attending a conference. Not everyone will want to know how to exchange data. They need the solution, but they need someone to do it for them.
Hmm.
So you mentioned, how do we get to the people that really matters, that are participating in these organizations? That's one of our tasks. Identify them and then engaging them and removing all the roadblocks that they come, and doing the tutorials, having all these resources available for when they're ready to look at it and to do it. They know these are the steps, these are the guides. There's no excuse to be left behind.
Mm, yeah. Good stuff. This is great. We're way over time here. I'm sorry to keep you so long. I know you have a lot of important stuff going on in your life, Alvaro. And thank you for everyone who has stayed with us here. Hit that like button. Your comments have been amazing here. I appreciate them. Sandra says, I agree. There's so much more to talk about ESG than actual passion and movement of the needle. I think people question science, but technology much less. Yeah, super interesting. Um, is this Copernic? Is this Copernicus? We call him Copernicus. Copernic was
Copernicus.
Polish. Oh, very interesting, Monica. Look at that. I love the crowdsourcing here. This is great. Deep thinking conversation. Thank you, Sandra. Hit that like button one more time. Appreciate all the comments. Alvaro, would you like to give us one thought before we sign off today?
Just have an open mind and see what we're doing. And whenever you feel curious to learn more, reach out. Um, our job is to make sure that you have all the tools, and you don't have any excuses to say no. And if you have concerns that this won't work, for example, also let us know. The critical feedback is the most important and most valuable feedback. The sooner the better. Fail quickly, fail fast,
Fail
something like
fast.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to fail fast. Otherwise, we will keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. No, fail fast is great. It's a great concept. How can people get in touch with you, Alvaro?
Through LinkedIn, my email, or just get in touch with IAM. Morgana is we're working together with Morgana on most of the things, so you can shoot her an email. My email, I don't know if we can put it in the comments there.
You
But
can
link,
always put it
yeah,
in afterwards as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Find
But I
me.
mean, also check out that webinar too, if
Yeah,
you're interested, or pass it along to maybe your CIO or something like that at your company, so they can check it out. Everybody,
absolutely.
Alvaro Stein, this has been incredible. Love learning about what you and IAM are doing with data solutions. It's exciting. I think this is the future. It'll be interesting to see the journey and how we get there.
Yeah, to walk the journey together, not see the journey.
Yeah.
Let's do it together.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the invitation. It's been exciting also for me, and Appreciate the invitation.
And will I see you in Las Vegas at the IAM conference?
Definitely, I will drive there 4 hours away.
Nice. Love it. Can't wait. Everybody, if you have not registered for the IAM conference in Las Vegas, it is going to be absolutely stunning, incredible, tremendous thought sharing from leaders from around the world. Gosh, I think last time there was 118 countries represented, something like that, maybe 1,700 people. I mean, it is literally the largest conference in the moving, relocation, global mobility industry, and you got to check it out in October. It's unreal. So hope to see everybody there. Thank you, Alvaro. Appreciate your time this Friday.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everyone.